I was approached with a very interesting proposal by one of my college juniors in college juniors when I was in the first year. Um, a school junior approached me, and this proposal was that why not organize a model UN conference of our own? Something we've been doing all our school lives. I said, I mean, why not? I mean, since we've been doing it all our school lives, we had the passion and skill for it, and also give us an opportunity to earn some extra pocket money. So he said, let's go ahead with it. We organized this conference, became a very successful conference in the city, and was carried on as a legacy the next year and the subsequent year. And unconsciously, subconsciously, we built a brand of our own. Something today we call Aspirant. Aspirant learning is a journey, is a destination that we reach to much later. But Aspirant as a brand came into existence in 2017, and we carried on just as a model event conference with all the skills we built as students. So, 20, then our priorities shifted for all of us who were back then in college, and as our priorities shifted, we realized that we had to chase internships or jobs, or look after the college curriculum, because otherwise we would fail. So we started focusing on colleges and realized that we had different priorities. When 2020 COVID hit us, and all of us had the ideal time and freedom that we have found, the newfound freedom, and we had two opportunities um, at our stake. One was to practice all the hobby cooking. When we were finally bored with it, we realized that let's do something for the people who've lost access to resources because of the pandemic. Through the community of followers of students we built over the years in our journey, we organize again, as my journey has been, a Model UN conference. Um, every procedure which went to donation for the people who lost access to food and basic resources like shelter and clothing during COVID. So this was the Paytm Feed My City campaign, which we donated to. And finally, we realized that we have built a community, something we never anticipated to build. We just kept on going with our way. And there was a community of the friends and followers we built, who we gathered later and then decided to start the concept of aspirant learning. Because we thought that this MUN and this opportunity had given us an idea that we can do something better, something more. And we decided to register aspirant learning as an organization, as a non-profit organization back then. So by building this community, I realized today that when I used to interact in COVID, especially, everything was online. When I interacted with the class third student, and this was my first interaction with a student of class as young as class 3, class 4, class 5, I did not know what to talk to them about, how to teach them public speaking. I have learned more from them than they have learned from me. And in this process, while learning a lot of skills, a lot of patience, I've also learned the value of what it is to be like an educator. Talking to a student from class third to talking to a corporate employee, all of whom were my students back then, understanding that all of us deep inside as students wanted to learn something new. And this carried on as a legacy, as a passion, because I realized I was meant for this. So um, the best advantage, I say, of building a startup online was that I could build it with zero investment financially. I mean it, zero investment financially. So with nothing but my skills, which I earned to organize the training programs that we did, and through that we raised the initial capital for building the startup what it is today. So a major problem, I hope I understand that people around me, and all the people who want to enter the edtech space and the training industry, especially any startup for that matter, is that they think starting small and starting slow means you will never grow. And this is something that I would like to reiterate today, that when I started the first batch, I had 4 students who were kind enough, generous enough to trust me with training them. When I had nothing to offer but my sincerest, gratitude to them only. So when I train crowds of 400 or 4,000 students today, and successfully we have touched more than 40,000 lives today, I'm nothing but grateful to them for giving me the opportunity for, and also inspiring the passion in me. So at a very young age today, I'm a teacher my students love. I get a lot of high fives when I go to these seminars with them. I interact with them. I get a lot of cheers. And this one recent session that I went to, I got a rose that a student made of paper for me and said, "Sir, we love you." Something that motivates you to get out of bed every day and do what you do. So, while this sounds like a journey which is full of roses, which is beautiful as it sounds, I'm not denying it is beautiful, but it has a lot of challenges that we have faced on the way. And I think this is a challenge that most startup owners or people who are, my age would relate to. The first is the crisis with credibility. I mean, whenever we go to a school, whenever we go to a client, an institution, or a college, the first question they ask is, "What do you know better than my teachers that you can teach my students?" And I faced this question multiple times in my life. This question of, do you have a master's degree? Is there a master's degree in public speaking? I mean, how can you say that you can train my students right? My teachers can do it. So with this, it has taken a lot of time to build credibility because I'm already told that I look younger to my age. I'm 24, by the way. I'm not in class 12th. So the second challenge that we have come across, and very common one, is that when you research on Google how to build a successful startup, you'll always find that finding the right people to work with, finding the right team, is a very important step to build a successful startup. But I say that's not the only initial process to start with. I mean, this is an ever continuing process. You find the right set of people, they would want to leave, they would want to change their priorities, but you cannot lose your motivation and your resolve to work on what you're doing because you have to believe in your idea. Only then people will believe in your idea. So I say that finding the right team is a process that's not just the initial step, that's not a pre-step of a startup. It always continues because the more you grow, the more you have people joining your vision, and the more you have your startup growing with these people coming in, you learning new things. And in our case, my method of teaching actually, has been always to empower, because I think, and I think smartly that it helps me when I delegate work and empower the people under me who work with me. So I teach them how to do a job that I don't have to do next time because I know someone will take care of it next time. Otherwise, being the perfectionist I am, I'm always overburdened with work. So that's why it's taken me a lot of time to learn to delegate. So when you learn to empower and you find the right team, my students who've joined me in various of my programs are working as my colleagues today. And I think as an educator, succeeded in my job if I've trained them right. So the third thing, and this is very common to, I don't say any startup owner only, but to everyone who's my age again, or, and I'm sure who's elder than me as well. The crisis with family. So you always, no matter how big of a client I land, no matter how big of a project I land, when I go to my family and say that, I have this institution I've landed, I've taken a session with 4,000 students today, they say, that is good, but why did you do a 5-year degree then in law, then if you wanted to go and pursue this? What is the future of this? Will you be able to marry and have a stable life and have kids? Because the goal around what we are, we are taught is centered around this. So while these challenges are there, I would also like to highlight that when our efforts were finally recognized by the Harvard International Relations Council and by IIT Roorkee for contributing to the vision of promoting quality education by unconventional means, with special emphasis on skill-based education. That is what we say that we specialize in. We knew for a matter of fact that we had a solid product. We had an educator base, a credible educator base, and we also had a community of students loyal to follow us and to learn from us. So our revenue since last year has been 5 times it is, and when we go to these startup competitions, the first question investors ask us is how. It is a simple practice of saving, cost cutting, and revenue optimization. And there are some mistakes that I think I have observed around me and I like to highlight here. Whenever a startup owner or anyone who's entering the EdTech space especially wants to take a business decision or a financial decision, the first question they should ask themselves, I mean, these are 3 questions that they should ask before taking a decision of such nature. These 3 questions are, is it necessary? Is it necessary right now? And does the growth as a result of this outweigh the liability or the consequence? Now, to us, aspirant learning has always been more than an idea. It has been a movement to transform lives, to inspire many who want to learn the value of soft skill development, and to teach that one student, to find that one student who has felt neglected all their life because they feel that they were not good at math or academic math or science or history, or did not score straight A's. I was once a student. In 2020, when finally we did all of these fundraisers, first for food donation, and then for acid attack survivors, and then for other things, then we realized that it's finally time to get it registered, you know, because we were in an informal group of individuals working, um, by nothing, with nothing, just but our motive and passion and drive. So when we thought of getting registered, we asked ourselves these three questions. Is it necessary? Yes, we have a student community ready to learn from us, and we have our clients, school managements, institution managements who do not trust us. They think we're not credible. We're just an informal group of individuals who want to train their students. So the first question was answered, yes. Is it necessary right now? We've been working for more than 3 years now, is something we thought at that time. So in 2020, we realized it's necessary to get registered right now, because I have a product ready, I have a student base ready. It's time to launch it in the market. And finally, the last question: does the growth, predicted growth, I say, outweigh um, the consequence or liability? Every financial decision you take, see, is a liability, in my opinion. Whether you bought it from your parents or your family, this question we answered this way: that the predicted revenue, um, based on our past estimations of the programs we have run, we easily predicted that the money that would go in, the expenditure that would be incurred in registering the startup, would be easily covered by 2 to 3 programs we've done. When there was a straight yes to all of these three questions, we decided to go ahead with it. That's worked on for me till date. So these three questions, I think, are very essential for taking a financial decision to answer before taking. Now, another thing that I'd like to highlight is the problem, with growing startups is that, and especially the edtech space, is that you want to do big. You pull in a lot of money without estimating your bare minimum revenue required. You go big, and then you go bankrupt. So, um, the moment you start making money, the first thing you do is that we have put in a lot of efforts now. We've been doing unpaid labor for a lot of time. As the owners, we're supposed to now take out money for ourselves. This is, I think, a common fallacy that people make. When your startup starts getting money, in the initial phase of startup, the emphasis on is on pooling money, because you want to grow it. So I think when money starts finally coming up, investment should not be on the startup owners, because it's your business. You can take it out anytime. I think it should be on two things in general. The first is on further financial planning, so that you can earn more, cut costs, and save. And it should also be on your team, because you owe it to them. Now, as I told you, if you invest in your team right, they'll be motivated and they'll work in the future. You'll have a team that they'll think that their efforts are not going unnoticed. So I think the second limb of this is to invest in your team. Now, also, a common mistake that I think generally startup owners make is they expect immediate repayment of their investment of time or effort or money. Now, this is a common fallacy, because startups take years to grow. I mean, organizations take years to grow. So, patience and hope is the only thing that will keep you going, with a stable check of how far you've come, with a technical check of how far you've come. When this question was asked in class back then, everyone answered astronaut or engineer, doctor, the commonly heard answers. Now, today's kids I interact with have answers like YouTuber and things you've not heard of, because we're going towards unconventional career options. In my case, it was always a teacher. So I always thought that the traditional notions we wanted to break, the traditional notions of how to conform, of not being taught to ask the whys and hows of what was being taught in the curriculum. Teaching is a job that is teaching is a passion that has come naturally to me. With um, whether it be teaching my peers that one boring chapter in history in class 9 sitting in the school ground on French Revolution, I remember, or be it teaching my sister who was often irritated by my insistence to learn the whys and hows of what was written in the textbook, to not just memorize. She said, let me just memorize it. I said, no, we learn the whys and hows. And that's why she was often irritated with me. But she says I teach the best. So, with this, teaching has always come naturally to me, and this has stayed with me till date. I've always been an educator by heart, and I think that the only way of not being, only way of breaking these traditional notions and doing something worthwhile that helps me get out of bed every day and wait for these messages of students telling me that I have made a change in their life, taught them something, is to break these traditional notions of inculcate my understanding of the do's and don'ts I have learned from life. And if I don't teach, I will never be able to do that. I will still be indirectly propagating this idea of them conforming to the traditional notions we are born to live in. The future for our organization, and something we hated when we were all in our pajamas, comfortable, did not want to get out of home because COVID had made us all lazy and comfortable. So when things started reopening, clients started demanding that whatever we're teaching to our students online, why don't you teach them offline? And as a person who's working in more than 6 states in India, I'm always traveling now because I took that option, which was not so traveled by, and we love it now because because we're building we're aiming to launch the first skill-based lab in India, which will target hybrid teaching online plus offline of essential soft skills. And this is the future for our organization.